Hey folks, we've got a job to do today. We're going to be fitting a heat trace cable and some new valves to my van. So I've got underslung tanks and obviously underslung pipe work, and every winter I get a problem with freezing. Either one of the valves split or one of the pipes freeze up. So to cure this, I'm going to fit this heat trace cable and fit some different valves. So what I've got is this. It's made by a company called First Trace, and this is the First Trace Eco 3 because the sensor part of the wire is 3 meters long. This box here is got the sensor built into it, the little white light there, though it's not actually a light, that's the sensor. The red light is a power indicator, and it's run off 240 volts. So this end has to be connected to a 240 volt supply, so obviously it's got to run via the inverter, so that will just need a plug on it. Actually I need to extend this wire. I don't have any cable with me here, I'm in Spain at the minute, but I'm going to fit the most important part of the cable, which is this side. So this side straps to all the pipe work and goes around the valves, and this is the part that heats up and stops things from freezing. So these are the old valves with the insulation on there, and it's always nice to have a bit of company when you're doing the job. So I need to get the old insulation off there and disconnect the old valves. This is the new fill point and waste emptying point setup that I've got off Sean Barrett. As you can see, those valves are made out of brass, and even these levers are made out of metal, and so it's a far sturdier job than the original ones, which as you can see are plastic. And these tabs on here should be about out there, but when we had a cold snap this last winter, when I tried to open it, they got so cold and brittle they just snapped off. So that, combined with a heat trace cable, should be a far better job. So I just need to get it bolted up there and these pipes connected back up. So I've just found out that the new brass valves are actually shorter than the original plastic ones, if you can tell. So I'm going to have to put some new waste pipe in. So if you're going to do the same job, make sure you get some waste pipe. With the valves in position, it was now time to fit the heat trace cable. First of all, I positioned the air temperature sensor box and then ran the heat trace cable around the pipework and the valves using cable ties. The manufacturers recommend that the heat trace cable should be at either 20 past or 22 in position on the pipework. Well, that didn't get too bad, a bit of a struggle in places, but I'll show you what I've done. So that control box up there is strapped to one of the brackets that holds the tank in place, and the heat trace cable comes along here. This is the waste outlet pipe from the waste tank to the waste valve, so it comes along there, and I've wrapped it around the valves well, which is what's recommended by the manufacturers, to wrap it round here. So I've come across from one valve to the other, wrapped it round there, and it comes all the way along this pipe, which is the feed to the valve from the fresh water tank. So when I fill up with water, I connect my hose pipe on here and the water goes in this way. So that runs all the way along here, and that's where it goes into the fresh water tank. So I had about 1.5 foot left over, so I've fed that all the way along the other outlet, that one there, and that goes up to the water pump. So there's about 1.5 foot of that getting heated as well. I've never really had a problem with that one before, but I've got to make sure I don't. So yeah. So I've been a bit lucky with the power supply cable, because I thought I was going to have to extend it. Coming out the top of the control unit here, this cable. I've run it along, and where is it? Strapped it to the chassis, and I've pushed it up this drop out vent here, which is next to the Truma combi boiler. That's a drop out vent for the, you know, if there's a gas escape up there. And I've just pushed it through, and that should reach a socket that I've got up there, a spare socket, so I'll be able to put a plug on the end of that and pop it straight in. So yeah. So now it's time to get the insulation back on, and I use just domestic pipe insulation. The manufacturers recommend 20mm thickness, and I use this stuff. This is what came off, and this is what I'm going to be putting back on, so we'll get that back on there now. And on top of the pipe insulation, I'm going to be using some of this double bubble wrap that you use inside your van for vapour barrier. So I'm just going to cut a strip of that off, and just wrap this round over the top as well and secure it with gaffer tape. So there we are, that's the insulation finished now. And that's what it looks like. So in terms of power usage, this heat trace cable, it uses 16 watts per metre length per hour. So I've got a 3 metre length, so it's 16 times 3 is 48, so that uses 48 watts per hour. So it's run from either like 230, 240 volts, which comes from the inverter, but the inverter's pulling power from 12 volt batteries, so that's what that's the power that's going to be pulled from the 12 volt batteries. So 48 watts divided by 12 is 4, so it's going to be pulling 4 amps from the batteries per hour, plus the 1 amp per hour that my inverter uses, even on standby. So it's going to be 5 amps per hour. So over an 8-hour period overnight, that's probably going to use about 40 watts. But it does switch on and off, it does regulate itself. When it needs to come on, when it gets really cold, it will come on. When the temperature rises, it will turn off. So I've also got freshwater and wastewater tank heater pads, which I did a separate video about before, and these use a similar amount of power. So if they're both on overnight, they could potentially, if it's just the freshwater tank heater pad on, use about 80 amps, but the heater pads on the tanks are self-regulating and will probably turn off on and off more times than the heat trace cable. So that gives you some idea of the amount of power that they use, and it's not very often they are going to be used. There's not that many nights where it gets really cold, where it's going to freeze the pipes and freeze the valves. So it is tolerable, and anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again next time, and please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Okay, take care, bye.